Good evening. Welcome to our workshop meeting tonight. I believe Councilman Ward will be here shortly. Looks like we have a couple items on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve our agenda for tonight. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Aye. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm going to change that a little bit around. Not always do a roll call, so that's the mayor's prerogative. All right, move on to item one. Item two, review of applications for RAP tax funding. We want to start with just right down the line. Children's Music Theater. You want to start with that one? Is Tuacahn okay? All right. We'll defer to Tuacahn. How's that? Anybody here from Tuacahn? Come on up.
Hello. We actually sent a link. I don't know if oh yeah, okay, great. We kind of figured a picture's worth 1,000 words. So this is our new we're wanting to build this new box office with an elevator. And so this is going to be a fly-through for you that you can see. It has it will kind of show you the layout and where it's located on the grounds. And then there's a conference room that we're going to be dedicating to Hiram and Gail Smith as well. So I'll kind of let you see it really quick. That's what the plan looks like.
What questions do you have for us?
Yeah.
We've all gone through the application. You have some specific questions for us?
Joseph, I'll start. It's good to see you.
Sure, nice to see you, Chris.
What role do you see Washington City playing in the funding and support of Tuacahn?
So what we're asking for specifically for the city of Washington to participate, the ask that's there is the $25,000, and that's to help complete specifically the box office and ear tagged to that conference room that you saw. We've been able to raise about 2/3 of the cost of the whole entire building through donations. And we anticipate to get the rest over the next few months. Zions Bank has agreed to give us a bridge loan to finish it. We've actually broken ground. I don't know if you knew that, about 3 weeks ago. So it is currently being built at this moment. And so this money coming from the city of Washington would be to complete specifically that box office. And more specific than that, the conference room. So. Did that answer your question?
We did, thank
Okay.
you.
Just a curious question. How much money has been procured through, looking through the RAP funds through the county into this project?
For this project from the county,
Or has none been procured from the county?
I know from
County?
the state, we've procured about 400,000 from the
Mhm.
county. I don't know specifically.
Mhm.
The county participates in the RAP tax annually. They committed, for those 10 years. So for the monies that are coming in specifically from the county, I don't have that number for you. Washington City does not participate annually. You did know that, right?
Right.
If I remember right, we've been a little bit hit and miss with
You-
donations.
Yeah, you gave a donation of $20,000 in 2016 after the RAP taxes were approved through the county, and the other cities participate annually, and Washington City participates as needed, as asked.
What other cities participate and to what extent?
Santa Clara, I think they committed to 5,000 a year for 10 years. St. George, I think is 20
I believe
5,000
25.
a year. Hurricane, I think is 10,000.
Ivans is
And
another
Ivans
10.
is 10,000.
Okay.
Most of those donations are made annual.
They are annual, yeah,
Annual.
they gave a commitment for every year for 10 years until the sunset of the RAP tax when it comes up.
And I believe that the reason for that they made the commitment was because it was a portion of the bonding component before. And
That's
they
right.
needed that commitment in
Yes,
order to
that's
pledge
true.
against the bonds.
That's a great
Right.
point. So those funds do pledge against the bond. So that probably goes back, answers to your question.
Correct.
Yeah.
My questioning then is the county, when starting off in the RAP tax, one of their major roles was to support and take care of things specific like as to Tuacahn. Funding and everything else was given to the cities with the intention and understanding that most of those things would be covered at the county level. So that was my understanding. Just curious seeing how the county has been participating since that moment and how we continue to move forward as a council is unique in our position with Tuacahn. Obviously not this, I'd like to be very clear, very grateful for the services of Tuacahn. I think it's a great addition to our community. Just as per how things started off the RAP tax, that's why I was trying to find a particular amount that the county was investing in at this moment, because we work with them as well to some degree.
Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
The only
what
answer
we-
I
I think
know-
it's 225,000.
That goes
From
towards
the
the bond.
county.
That sounds about right. But specifically for the box office, I don't believe that they are.
Yeah, I don't know that we.
From the RAP tax.
Mhm.
But are you using any of that 200, whatever
No,
amount that
no,
the
no.
county gives toward the box office, or is that just?
No, I
what
think
is
that's all going towards the bond that
The bond for,
the city manager brought up. Yeah, the original bond.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment. We really appreciate Tuacahn and everything it does for this community, which is St. George, Santa Clara, Ivans, and Washington City. And I'm confident that the council will make every consideration that we can to support in any way we can. We appreciate what Tuacahn does. It's great to see support for the arts. It's a big draw for a lot of people that come to this area. And frankly, it's a real tribute to your father and his vision, what he's
you.
accomplished out there. It's just, I know for me and my family, we go every year. It's magical. It's really special. We really appreciate it. So I'm hopeful to some extent we'll be able to support Tuacahn going forward.
We appreciate that. We look forward to Washington City to continue supporting us. And, we have, as you know, 80% of our patrons come from out of town, out of the county, and
Mhm.
they come and have fun all over our county. And your help helps us fuel, that engine. We can continue to do that. So thank you. The box office is a big deal for us. We've been expanding, we've been growing. We've grown out of our box office, our administration building. Having the box office on ground level is a big deal for our patrons. They don't have to climb those stairs anymore to get their tickets.
Mhm.
And with the elevator, that's a big deal for us. We won't have to use the golf carts taking people up and down
Mhm.
anymore. And it'll be a just a great addition to that, what we're doing and building out there. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
And any more questions that we can try and answer for you?
Guess not.
Okay, Mayor.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You're very
Council
welcome.
members, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to the Children's Musical Theater application.
Thank you for having us. My name is Terry DeMille. This is my boss, Sarah. Yeah. So our musical theater originally started out in Santa Clara and was started by an 11-year-old girl. And after the first year she said that, the next year she had 45 people just show up to do the children's theater in the backyard. About 5 years ago, we set it up as a 501c3 and began offering it to the community. Since then, we fill up all of our sessions and sometimes have to turn people away because there's just not enough space for them. Currently, we've been using the electric theater, but due to time constraints, we can't get in there quite as much as we would like to. And so we're hoping to take it one step further and start it in our own theater and taking a new place. As many of you have known, Brigham's Playhouse is unfortunately not going to be providing for us in the future in the same location until they find something new to work in. So we're hoping to be able to take over that space and keep the theater here in town and provide a lot more options for those kids that want to come and do our productions. Anyone by chance have any questions for me? At least 5.
I have gone through and I've read through this. Remind me exactly how much you're asking for the council to give through the RAP tax.
The total project budget that we put on there is $186,400. Our original goal is a lot of what we need is the equipment that's in the theater already to be purchased to start that theater and keep the theater going as it's been going now. They need the stage needs to be put in, or we need to put the stage up and the seating and the lights and all of that as well. Part of what we wanted to do is put in a dance floor to provide a location for people to do dance in the building as well. Also a community center where people can rent out the space and use it. Right now, we have a lot of people that have asked us about a space that they can rent to use for a lot of times when they do their end of year recitals, they have to rent the Eccles Center and it costs them $1,000 a day because they're not 501c3s. And so part of what we want to do is be able to give that an opportunity for people to work in our theater as well. Also, one of the reasons we requested so much of that up front, since this is our getting up and going, is a lot of that stuff we have been offered a deal that we can buy it outright. We save about $20,000 off of the purchase of all the equipment that's there.
The equipment is being purchased from Brigham's Playhouse.
And so do you feel it's appropriate to ask for $84,000 worth of salaries in your startup?
Part of the salaries that we're is part of our the annual gross that we're going to be making. So we don't expect them to cover up all the salaries and everything else. We'll cover everything we can from what we've got projected in our budget from the cost of ticket sales and from the.
So I'm looking within this, the exhibition production expenses is $56,850. That is what I'm assuming you might save $20,000 on if you bought it outright. Is that the line item you'd like to look at? Is there a different line item that talks about that? where you would save $20,000 if you bought everything.
That was that one right
That's
there
correct,
that you're
yeah.
talking about.
So the 56,000, it would have cost you 70,000, or I'm assuming $76,000 roughly
Correct.
Correct.
otherwise.
And if we don't buy it outright, we just have to pay it yearly as we're going through it. And so it ends up costing us more over the long run.
Okay, so how long has this company been in operation?
It's been a 501c3 since 2015. 2 years before that, we did it as just as a backyard production for anyone that wanted to.
Talk to me about what you expect as far as ongoing operations in the facility. If you move in, you have your theater equipment and you're going, how much time, and maybe even flesh out for me a little bit of what the children's theater does. How much time with children's theater, how much time with other recitals, what kind of a schedule are you thinking about?
Well, every month there will be some type of a performance, but also in the gaps in between, anyone that wants to come in and rent that facility would be able to come in and rent that facility. Mostly we're focusing on anything that's kid oriented. We've had some people approach us about a comedy club, and one of our concerns there is that it stays to be kid appropriate. We've had some homeschool groups that have approached us about using that space during the day. Some other people would approach us to teach homeschool groups during the day as well for dance and for theater classes. We want to have theater classes.
So I guess my question is, I don't know the space that well. So you'd only be utilizing a portion of the time and then subleasing it to these other entities to do their business as well? or-
Correct. Our children's productions, we run each session in 2 weeks. So half the time would be available for other people to do. So we would just work it out. Our sessions would provide at least 2 weeks per month for other productions to come in. And that's just the theater portion. We plan to remodel the basement into the classrooms and the dance studios that will be running constantly. But we will be providing classes for acting, music, dance, ongoing, but also having some time available continuously for other groups that want to come in and rent those spaces as well.
One of my concerns is this council, we've never really awarded amount greater than $60,000 ever. Within this, one of my concerns is roughly, according to your sheet, you've got roughly $280,000 worth of expenses. Sorry, $260,000. The request you're asking us to take is roughly $76,000 shy of all of your operating costs for a year. Plus startup, plus yearly rent, plus trying to find something we're not plussing, just about everything.
Essentially, that's the case for the first year. After that, we're hoping that it's completely self-sustaining at that point. And with the first year going on and starting up in a new location and creating those contracts with those people that want to come in and use that space, and working with the college to do their some internships that they use for the dancers and the musicians and all that come in there. Mostly our goal is that with that 1 year, everything is in place, good to go. We're not stressed about whether or not we're going to be able to get the business and the programs in place, as much as worrying about funding coming in nonstop. By the time that year's up, we'll have had that time frame to build up that repertoire of people that are going to be coming in and working out the budget.
So one of my questions is, we have just barely, in the same location where you're at, worked with an entity and given more than $200,000 in the space of 2 years, 3 years. We found out that there was a lot of issues and concerns within the community about that, simply because we worked hard as a council to help support things and realized that the company itself had issues being sustainable. Normally, I don't really get too much involved in sustainability things. We're looking at ways of supporting recreation, the arts, and the parks. But for requests like this, I feel like we need some really solid understanding before we can go even close to the amount you're requesting. My
And,
first-
and I understand. When we were encouraged to apply, they said, apply for what you're looking for and
Which is understandable.
don't expect the full amount. And so having had that direction, that's what we will be able to keep going one way or the other. We just can't get to 100% of what our goals are within the first year, depending on how much funding is available.
Tell
So
me
as
about-
it, sorry.
Well, I was just going to try and jump in right there and just tell me about some of the other funding sources you're looking at this point.
You know, we do a lot of sponsorships. People come in. We have some law firms and stuff that have been very supportive for us as well. In the past, we've had St. George City give us some rat tax funds as well. We were approached by the previous city commissioner Renstrom about Washington City or Washington County rat tax. He said we should apply for that as well. Previously, we haven't wanted to burden them too much because they get a lot of requests.
Well, and we haven't had the same needs that we will have now.
What would it's like example St. George provide you guys
We,
when you applied to their rap
The
tax?
first year we got 6,000, then we got 5,000, then 4,000. So they said that they're trying to give everybody something.
well,
Sorry,
and
is that
all
what you're
we've asked for in the
That was
past
from
was,
St. George.
St. George.
and all we've asked for in the past from St. George was enough to cover the theater rental, because that was really about all we needed from them. 'Cause-
You guys have been operating in like theater.
Yes.
Are you able to acquire any of your own materials that you do production?
Yeah, we have a lot of scenery, set pieces, a lot of costumes and stuff. It's all currently in storage.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's the equipment that Brigham's already has in there, the stage, the seating, the lights, the sound, things like that, because we didn't need those in the electric theater because they have those things provided.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole
And-
stage
Stage and
set up the
seats.
way it is. And with our children's, I mean, you were talking about sustainability. The biggest need that we have for this year is because a lot of our programs will not, with doing the remodeling and with it being this time of the year, most of our programs won't be able to really be started up as classes and things until August when next, school year begins. And so that's where kind of part of the problem is with needing a little bit of extra funding now. And with our children's theater, one way that we're kind of different from the other theaters around that are doing just the community theater is our participants pay a registration fee. So we can sustain ourselves a little bit better than some of these community theaters because we do have that money coming in and then the ticket sales as well. So that, that's why we feel confident we can, sustain ourselves, in the future.
Correct.
How many is on the board?
There's 4 people.
Are they various backgrounds, just community people?
Do you have a lineup from last year that you could send to the council? Just so I could get a sense of what it is you've done in the past.
Absolutely.
I think that would be helpful for me to just get a better sense of
So,
kind of who you are and what you're doing, even brochures or
Yeah.
things like that represent you.
We haven't, sorry, did you have a question? Oh. Okay. Yeah, we actually haven't really been advertising because
Mhm.
word of mouth has just grown more than we can handle anyway.
That's good to know, yeah.
And so,
and we have to tell them no, and then I feel bad.
yeah, and I mean, we're really just, really hitting our limits. We started off doing one session for each production with 40 kids, and now we're up to 120 kids participating in each one, and we have to do multiple sessions because this electric theater can't
We do
handle.
have several family members and people that are part of our program here too, so
Glad to
you
have
can
the
ask
support
them
for you, yeah.
too, so.
That's great.
So I'm looking at this and the anticipated revenue is about $96,000 outside of the request from the rap tax.
For this next year.
If you were to move into something over here and got funding, what do you see as a cap or the amount
does it expand you or diminish you? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, that's a good question.
On average, is for those that are, it's going to be a very wide range because not only is it people that come and just do the musical theater stuff, but it would be people that are doing dance, if they're doing music classes, acting classes, and those classes vary between 10 students in one group up to 20. We don't like to go much 20 because then you can't do much more. So we can add in more classes as those times come. Right now, we try to keep the groups about 25 kids per production because,
25?
sorry, 35 kids per,
No, 45 kids per production would be our max for each session on this stage, on Brigham's stage.
we like to keep them slightly smaller so that those kids, when they're on stage, they have the opportunity to be seen because that's what moms and dads want to see. So,
But each production, we would have multiple, we would just do session after session. This is in Cedar City, they do the same sort of model for their children's production. And they do about 14 sessions for one production because they have that many kids to keep coming and coming. And, and they feel like we have grown even faster than they have just with the limited resources we have with not even advertising. So we expect to be able to just keep doing session after session to fill for, right now we have 120 kids that show up for each production.
Because that would be the important component.
Yeah, and that,
Growth and community.
correct. And that's, and that's the problem we have right now is we can't do more than 120 just because of the inability to rent the space and electric more than that because they're so busy. And so, and that's without advertising.
so with the kids we have now and the programs we're going to be running, we anticipate about 150 kids coming through per month.
So my question,
115, and we get over 300 people per spectators for all of our shows that they come through. Sorry, Daniel, what was that?
Because you have kind of a built-in audience there.
Yes.
Correct.
Interesting concept. Sorry, yeah.
okay, so within the Electric Theater, give me an idea of what is your annual expense there right now?
At the Electric Theater, we have not yet begun to hire anybody because it's been all volunteer at this point. So we're averaging roughly around $6,000 per production and so we do 2 productions a year. We're $12,000 to $15,000 a year.
So you would like to go from 2 productions a year to 6 productions a year, according to this.
Well, 6 productions, but multiple sessions.
Yes.
So it's a huge jump in what your company does now.
Correct.
Correct.
And that's why we'll have expenses for personnel now. I don't want to ask anybody to put that much free time into our production.
I have no more questions.
Do you feel that the Children's Theater will be able to help, how do I say this, help preserve some of the gains that we've already made as far as theater in the area here?
That's the goal. We've had a few more people approach us. Had one from Enterprise and one from Hurricane as well come out and say, hey, if you get this space, we want to come out and do some of our stuff there as well.
Just to be clear, to rent your off time unused space to have more theater.
Because they can't do it. They're running the same problem we are.
Can you tell me those locations again?
Enterprise and Hurricane. And Leverton Community Theater is also talked to us a little bit about having that option. Our biggest goal is that we can keep that theater space here, and a lot of the same people that Brigham's was using before with their kids musicals as well. We have their list of people that we're going to reach out to them and have them come. Not that we 100% really expect that everything's going to be quick and easy up front going. It may take 6 years, 10 years before to the point where we want to be.
I appreciate you mentioning Brigham's class because that's my next question. To be able to involve them and
They're here.
They get blocked.
Oh,
That was an important part of our city. And I appreciate Mr. Young for his work and dedication to the arts that I don't readily understand, but I do appreciate him.
it's one of the biggest reasons we have this opportunity right now.
And I think that involved in, some of those people involved in their past would be valuable because there's inroads already made.
We are currently doing our Shrek Junior sessions. So next weekend and the following weekend on Friday night at 7 o'clock, Saturday at 7 o'clock, and there's a matinee on Saturday at 2. You're all invited. Just come and kind of get an idea of what's there. Because I think that would help a lot for you to say, okay, what is this we're actually supporting? That's a lot of our sponsors. That's how we run our sponsor programs is we provide those that are potential sponsors with 2 free tickets so that they can see what they would be sponsoring before they got to that point. I think that makes a lot of difference a week from Friday.
Yeah.
So I will send that to you as well.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And so you can bring your wives.
One of the biases I must admit openly about
Please do.
this, I have a bias in the concept of recently having a very similar operation to what you're proposing to come into there. Seeing a YouTube put out about what they felt like they need to be a successful company. One of those was having 2 to 3 years of operating capital before they open up their doors again. I know that there's a lot of unexpected things in running a business, especially in the arts. Whatever you guys do is very dramatic, which I understand. And I appreciate the boldness and being very clear with the parameters of the rap, which is to ask what you feel you need. And I don't find that disrespectful at all. So I do appreciate being very clear with your numbers. I get concerned about the city sponsoring such a thing at a very nascent stage. After learning through the last $200,000 of even a company that is not nascent
I
in
agree.
that area, it was a learning experience for us, and it was a huge investment for the community. And so that's something that I take just great caution, only because we've been forced to understand it more than we thought we'd have to.
Yep.
So I appreciate you being willing to come in and be open and bare to a great request. Obviously, a very valuable part within our communities. So I have no further questions.
So we have a
Mr. Clough,
A 5-year
Councilman Clough,
lease.
is that, just to be clear, is that a bias or is that a by us? I'm trying to
You know what?
understand that.
Depending
Oh,
on the
sorry.
moment and lack of
maybe a little
humor,
both.
I know I can always lean on a good response.
So we do have a 5-year lease with Robbie Staley, so that we'll at least be there for 5 years.
Okay.
But we have first right of
When you
refusal.
say that you will be there, have you entered into it and you are opening shop going into there, or are you on the verge of deciding if you want to do that?
We,
He wants to wait until we have
Yeah.
our meeting today.
yeah, it's, based on funding.
The
Really,
difference would be is if we start the lease in February as we're planning, or if we push it back till May.
Now,
So
is that
essentially, you're
5-year
stuck
lease
with
that
this
you're
one way or
talking
the other.
about, the line item for $63,000, or is that the 5-year lease that you'd be trying to get?
No,
So that
It would just-
$62,000, is that a yearly lease?
It's
that's,
the
yeah.
year.
So yeah, let's drill into the details here a little bit. And I get that you're asking for kind of what you would ideally like. If we tighten up the budget there a little bit, what do you think you could launch with as far as a dollar amount from the city? If the city committed to a dollar amount, what dollar amount would that be that you would be the highest you could go?
Our biggest concern with that is whether or not we have the equipment that's there that we would need to run the facility.
$56,000.
And again, that one was 50,000 to get everything versus the 80,000 is what it would be if we don't get it all at once. After that, we just pay a little bit more. each
So
year.
is that buying it like from a different distributor and bringing it in?
No.
It would be-
From
Buying
Brigham.
what's there.
It's from Briggs. It would be more to buy
But my
All the
question is,
stuff
can
that
you
you know.
go get a smaller setup that's cheaper that can get you by
Lights
for
and
the next few
sound
years.
don't really come much cheaper
Buy
Lights
for
and
the next few
sound
years.
don't really come much cheaper than that.
Yeah, we, looked into that, and the amount of money would be basically the same, and then it would have, we'd also have to have it set up, which would be an additional cost. Brigham's Playhouse is really giving us about as good of a deal as we're going to get, especially if we can get it up front so that we don't have to pay the extra, because they're going to do a deal for 20% off.
Generally, if you get enough light and sound equipment for that stage, you're going to be looking at about $50,000 for a new setup.
For just the light.
So then,
Just the lights and
just
sound.
lights and sound. So that's equipment. What else to get this theater up and going? I mean, maybe even just as far as a 6-month ask, if we were to break this up and say, what do you need to get for the next 6 months? Where do you need to be? I'm just not suggesting anything here. I'm just trying to get a sense
No,
of.
we had talked about it. $100,000 would get us to where we could get the theater and get the basement remodeled so that we can start up those classes, because that's, our goal is to get those started up by August. If we don't get the funds for that, we would have to hold off another year to be able to save up the funds to be able to remodel the basement as well. And
I wasn't even aware there was a basement over there.
yes, there's.
So
a
worst
basement,
case
which is-
scenario is if say no funding were to come forward,
Okay.
we would wait until May, so that we can get closer to some of those programs that are going to be open in the summer for those. As long as.
So what does
we
that
can
do to your
still-
remodel? Does that overlap your remodel with your productions?
The
or you just
remodel's
do it-
going to have to be a lot more me involved.
So I have a question for you. With that remodel, I noticed your tuition fees, you're anticipating $63,500. Would that be dependent upon you doing that remodel then? Or
It would
is there a
just push it
place?
back.
No, that is, the tuition and fees, that is for the production. So if we had just the theater set up and not the remodel, we would still be able to be doing the productions, our productions. It would just limit the amount of, the ability to rent out a lot of those spaces for the community. And we wouldn't be able to do the classes,
The dance
and-
classes
and
we
acting
can't do
and-
until there's a remodel because
And that's
of
in the
legalities.
basement.
They
Yes.
have to have a certain floor
So-
to dance
So
on.
but the stage upstairs and is there remodels that's also going on
No,
upstairs?
the
It's
It's
down.
just a
upstairs-
remodel for the.
Correct. The upstairs, as long as we can purchase the equipment, we would be able to start up immediately doing, and that would be our plan, would be to immediately start doing sessions on the
Upstairs.
And we can do the acting classes and stuff like that, but the dance classes will be held off. Some of the music classes will be held off because it's not designed for that. But we will still have anyone that comes in to teach like instrument lessons and the theater classes will still be able to use.
So by just way of curiosity, how did you become aware of the RAP tax? Who encouraged you to apply for this? What was your background in that?
Brigham's Playhouse.
They told us
Jamie
about the deadline for you guys.
Young. Mhm.
We knew about the RAP tax as soon as it came to be, because I've been a proponent of RAP tax for a long time, especially since our sister company in Cedar City starts doing this too. And we do have those previous experiences with St. George.
Yes, and it was Brigham's that, they approached us about renting about taking over their theater. And we just at first thought there wouldn't be no way we could do it. And he was the one that let us know that the RAP tax was right now, because St. George does theirs in the summer. So we didn't think that we would.
So essentially, if we don't move into there by May, they're going to take all this theater equipment,
Turn
the
it into some other
stage.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
No problem.
not by May, by February.
Thank you.
Because, Brigham's has to get out by the end of this month, and they would have to tear everything out, and so that's why it's kind of a deadline for us to get in.
Thank you.
And so basically, we'll move forward with what we get bit by bit as we have to until we're 100% where we want to be.
What are you anticipating?
We want to keep the CMT, but it's not going to be children's musical theater. It's going to be Center for Music and Theater, Broadway bound. So
What was the last part? Sorry.
Broadway bound. We didn't figure if we're going to move over to that building, we didn't think CMT St. George was essentially was just like, that's,
Thank you.
That's,
You could call it the dog town.
I have to follow Banjo on that one.
these guys over here didn't ask any questions. Are they not allowed to ask questions?
They,
Not the
they
attorney?
listen. They listen very well.
And so Daniel, if you have more questions, please let me know.
I do appreciate that. I appreciate you being.
Because
so
this
willing
is
to answer.
something that's very new to you guys, because it's not been in the community for an actual children's theater. And so, and we realized we did hit you with a big sum, and you're like, what?
Like
So-
what is a very good way of saying it. Yes.
So, but
And I do understand the reasoning why you asked that. No, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, so in the future, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't have the same need. It's just more of a time crunch because we didn't expect to be getting our own place this soon. So,
And that helps. That's why I appreciate just the backstory because that's something I felt very missing in our understanding of
Yeah.
why and how. And
no, we were just kind of, expecting
by
to
the way-
continue doing it part-time for a while, so.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
and we appreciate you guys looking through it and asking the questions too, because that helps us out a lot. I wasn't really that sure what to expect coming to the meeting. So,
No daggers, just trying to understand your
oh,
needs.
please fling daggers. That's why I brought her.
Ladies first.
All right.
May I ask a question? All you young folks out there, all you part of this? Are you?
And then over here too. Raise your hand if you're my CMTers.
And how long have you had these kids?
It varies. Some of
Really?
them been
Some of 'em been there
doing
for
10
7
shows,
years.
and
Really?
some of them have only done 3 shows.
Feel moved to say thank you, mothers, for making this happen, right?
And we still have several of our volunteers because we're doing practice right now.
No.
So they're still down at the Electric Theater covering for us.
Yeah, we've had parents for the past 5 years telling us they want us to do more. And so we just,
So in a crazy real world intent, if this went through, it would open up opportunities for other communities to come upon our productions, expand opportunities for kids to be Broadway bound in our
Right.
dancing and our acting.
Our goal is to focus on those in the area that have dance studios already and things
Right.
like that, so that they don't have to
But
pay
in all
that
that, it would open up
$1,000 sum.
multiple opportunities, not only just for your company, but possibly other companies that have been within the community as well.
correct. I mean, because we've been there. When we first started, we were doing it at a park. Because there's just
Children's
not that.
theater, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's just not that much available, and the things that are available are just really too expensive for most people, especially if they're not nonprofit organizations. They just don't have, options.
It was on a really
I'm curious.
nice,
Sorry, I'm curious about that. At a certain point, when you're doing that at a park, you just get to a place where like sunscreen is so expensive, you have to move into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just wondered about
well, it did one in January too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the
did it.
rain and
And it was on a cement stage at the Santa Clara City Park. And
more people just kept showing up, so we decided to move forward.
Before you
so.
go, I just want to say something to you young performers, the money there.
Yes.
You know what, I appreciate you young folks being here tonight, being part of this process. You know, this is what makes communities great. Being here, being part of the process. We appreciate you. Thank you.
you wait until you see
Mayor,
him on
may I just-
stage.
Absolutely.
May I add to Councilman Ivy's thoughts? We appreciate what you do, whether it's in Washington or St. George or wherever you are performing, makes a big difference in people's lives. I look out here and I see Mr. Young and Mr. Cap, and I think back to when I had a daughter that about the same age as some of these girls and boys who are involved with your theater, and I realized the impact it had on who she is now as a young woman, and you make a real difference. I want you to know that this council will give every consideration we can, and whether we're able to fund or not, or to what extent, I want you to know that you have our appreciation and our respect, and we really want the best for you, and we're going to do what we can, but we can't make any promises of zero to the full amount or anywhere in between, but we'll have more discussions, and we'll have a vote in a few weeks, and either way, we really appreciate the what you do for the community.
We go all the way up to age 18.
She's 21.
Oh,
okay.
But she had a wonderful experience in Mary Poppins and a number of other plays, and it's fantastic. We appreciate the theater.
Well, and now that we've done it for, 7 years, it's been really fun to see some of the kids who, when they first come in, don't even dare audition. And then 5 years later, they're getting leads and, seeing their confidence build has been really rewarding. So we've really enjoyed doing it. So.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And the same goes for anyone else that if you have questions, you can just let us know.
Okay.
Because that's the biggest, quickest way to learn. So,
Thank you.
Thank
all right,
you.
thanks.
Okay, Southern Utah Art Guild.
Hi, I've a laryngitis, so
Oh, bless you.
my name is Debbie Bice, and I'm the president of Southern Utah Art Guild, and we are a 501(c), and we're an umbrella organization that currently has the Arrowhead Gallery, hope you've all been through it, and the Red Cliffs Gallery. We are, other than one paid person, we are an all-volunteer organization. So when you look at our grant, you can see that the amount of hours that we have, even in the Arrowhead Gallery, our artists all have to work, and they have to work for free, because that's what art. Oh yes, we're because we put all our dollars toward promoting development and growth, and that's why we're here. Asking you for the $15,000. Very little of that would be administrative costs, but what we want to do is, I'm a resident of this city, and one of the things that has struck home to me is I want to grow the visual arts here, because we all know that visual arts attracts tourism. It attracts people from other cities, other counties, because everybody loves art. And with the growth that's going on right now in all of Washington County and the city of St. George, now is a huge time, and we're experiencing some really, really wonderful impact in the visual art community with the tourism, the visitation, and the new residents. And what we want to do, in fact, we had a board meeting today to start outlining, assuming that we do get the whole $15,000, of what that plan would be for the city of Washington to help educate and develop and really bring out more artists. We do have artists from Washington City right now who are in the Southern Utah Art Guild. And Daniel, you're smiling. So are you a member?
Well, I am not a member. I have a friend that loves everything that you guys do and has talked to me very much about you. So I really appreciate opportunities for people to display concepts and creativity. It's a rare thing, and it's beautiful. So I do smile openly and honestly about that. And
Well,
it's been good from everything I've heard so far.
Well, thank you. And one of the other things that we do is from our abilities, from the things that we do through the education. We have monthly educational meetings that are totally free for all artists. And the people who come in to teach for us are very high level. The woman that's coming now is coming from Salt Lake City to do a visual arts scrapbooking on how to tell the history of your art from the very beginning. And we have these monthly meetings. We've had Roland Lee, we've had Soon Moore, and we have all of these folks who come in for us because of what we're able to do. The other thing that we do is that Business of Art at Dixie State University, we give away free 50 scholarships to artists, and because we support all the visual arts at every level, from the beginning to, I think our oldest member right now is 97 years old. And we also have another member who is 84 years old. We also support the Alzheimer's art show, which we do in Red Cliffs. So we have Red Cliffs Gallery, and we also have the Arrowhead Gallery. Arrowhead Gallery is a juried inn because we set it up as an educational progression. You start out in Red Cliffs, you learn how to display, you learn everything you need to know about becoming an artist and becoming a successful artist, which also helps to make your community successful. And one of the things that we also do is through Dixie State University, we have wall space in the Arrowhead Gallery so that we have a student artist of the month from Dixie State University that hangs there. When they come and hang there, they don't just hang their art. We teach them how to hang their art. We teach them the business of art. We teach them how to develop and grow as an artist. And we've actually had a couple of artists, young artists, who have gone on when they went up to BYU. They moved and went up to BYU and been very successful. So we're very proud of our accomplishments. And what we'd like to do is extend that to the city of Washington. And I said, as a resident here in the city, I'd really like to see that. I'd really like to grow that here.
When you say you'd like to grow that, is this more to the scholarships and just opening it up, just advertising it more as an option?
What we would do is we would take advantage of some of the locations here to have art events for just the community, to try to help them. We would set up educational programs. We were talking this morning in the board meeting is, do we want to utilize the Washington Community Center? Is it something that we could bring classes and development there? And so part of the cost would go to whatever rental, any administrative costs that would be associated with that. So that's what we want to do. And then if we wanted to have art shows, then in the city of Washington, I think that would be wonderful, because then, of course, we would have to advertise and market that. But I think that would be really good, because we want to, like I said, pull people into Washington City as a visual arts community. Visual arts attract a lot of tourism, and they attract a lot of other people. And we've been very successful, and would like to take that success and bring it to Washington City.
Do you have a partnership with the Washington County School District?
No, we don't. No, all our monies are relied on rep tax. And like I said, our whole workforce is all totally volunteer.
Notice that you're anticipating a total cash expense of just around $53,000, but underneath there, donated volunteer service, roughly $87,300. Obviously, there's a lot of people that do a lot to volunteer their time,
Yes.
abilities, and talents to make this. It's a
Yeah.
little art of the heart kind of thing.
And the wonderful thing about it is they volunteer willingly. I mean, it's like they're excited about doing it. The other thing that what we'd like to do is, if we do get the $15,000, what we'd like to do is, we have a project right now that we have already started outlining. And what it is it's called, we haven't really given it a name just yet, but it's a trash art event. And we have a famous artist who's coming in for free, who teaches on how to take trash and turn it into art. So what we're going to do is we're utilizing that to pull all the residents, Washington City, St. George, all the membership, all the public, and this person will come and talk, tell you how to do it. You will go out, all the people will go out, and they will collect trash. They will clean up areas within the city, within the county, wherever. They gather that trash, they come back, and they create art. The art is then going to be displayed, and that's one of the things that we're looking for, a location for that. And that's why we talked about the Washington City Community Center. Maybe there would be enough space. I don't know. We haven't looked. But the thing of it is, we are aligning that with Earth Day. And then that would give, it would show that the communities are interested in not only art, but cleanup, recycling. And we are contacting the recycling centers now to get their participation in doing that. But that would be a big event.
Would you be?
Well, I'm an engineer. You have to understand, I'm an engineer, so that's no problem.
I'm not going to cross that. As a question is to the council, would it be a burden for you to report back on throughout the year or at other times just to?
No.
We would really love to see as those things grow and develop. I know as a council member, I love to see its impact onto our community. When we've expanded parks and stuff, we've had signs that this is where your rap tax has gone. And I like people to see things happen within their community and be a participant in what you're doing in your organization, in the sense of just knowing that we value this part of our community as well, and having that recognition that this is something we feel the taxpayer dollars should go towards. Would that be an appropriate?
No,
thing?
we could, I do a monthly report out publicly myself, so that's no problem.
Right. I feel so bad for making you talk. I don't know if I have
That's
any more.
okay, it's worth it, and it's for a very good cause. And I thank you very much for your consideration, and I hope you will consider us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Last but not least, Washington City Community Center.
Good evening, council members. Benjamin Ray, Washington City Community Center. I think I know all of you. Usually I feel the most uncomfortable being at this podium, but after hearing all the great things going on around, you guys may have the harder thing to do this time. But hopefully you've had a chance to read through what we're looking to do at the community center, and we'll answer any questions you have.
One of my biggest things is, I know I've read through this, just a brief overview of your intent, because right now our rec center acts as basically a whole picture of rap. Obviously it's funded through other things, but I've been really, really interested to seeing the concepts of expanding the concept, the ideas of what the rec center can do for our community better, and just give us a basic rundown.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I look at, and we've kind of pushed this from the beginning when we opened the community center, and it was called a community center for a reason. And it's because we wanted it to be the center of our community, kind of the heart where we can bring people together in different activities. The vast majority of the things we've done over the years have been recreationally driven on that. We want to provide an opportunity for everybody, and not everybody necessarily loves sports. It's hard for me to understand because that's what my background is in. But, I have one daughter who arts is all she cares about. In fact, tonight she's actually over there. Maybe I shouldn't say, but she's in the Shrek program. But yeah. But I feel like we have an obligation to our community to provide an opportunity for our youth to be exposed to different opportunities in the arts. And we're looking at a very basic level of exposure. Part of that is I see a greater vision over time of expanding this to more after-school opportunities for some of our most vulnerable populations, those who financially cannot afford or otherwise are not able to participate, giving them a place to go, to be safe, to learn new skills. And so that's kind of our ultimate vision. And this is kind of the first step along the way, getting the funding, getting the non-perishable, so to speak, items that would be able to get us started on those programs. So that's kind of where we came up with this vision.
So sorry.
No, it's okay. I was thinking when you say those programs, I'm looking down the list here. Jewelry, kids camps, got cross stitching. That might be a good one for me.
Could be.
Craft camps. I don't mean to cause any humor on this, but it seems like you said, your background in the community center has been so sports driven.
Mm-hmm.
As said the father of 5 boys that participate. Right? This aspect of, I know that when they've done sports and stuff, if there was a kid who could not pay, there was always a way to make sure that they could participate.
That is correct.
And I know Barry would have a better understanding of the extensive background on that. You're pushing for 1,000 new openings within this funding to address 1,000 said children that could fit in these camps.
Yes. That's kind of our ultimate goal. Is we went through the numbers of this and how, I mean, probably our biggest focus is how can we partner with other organizations like the school district, go in, talk with counselors, find out which kids have the greatest need, and find opportunities for them to be able to participate.
So you are pushing a partnership with Washington County School District to
Yes.
understand the needs of children within our region.
Yes. And I've already done some initial discussions with some people to figure out what's the best way for us to begin going down that road. And I think we've met with very positive response.
Well, this is one thing that I'm really passionate about in the sense of it. I've looked out of 1,000 kids who anticipate covering 200, roughly 1/5 of the participants. Just as a make sure we cover people. Is there any way that we can get a report on any type of how that 200 is being? I don't know how to really ask for this because it's new to me.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I trip over this request, but how we handle those high need things within our community is a really unique and important thing for me to understand. Now, I think as a council member, especially going through these funds, I like the output of that. It's really something we sustain as a council.
I went through and, I met with Cole Staley. I met with other people within our leisure services division to make sure that even outside of the current programs that we're offering, if we made this an opportunity to expand that even more, you had brought up that we never let a kid not participate because they can't pay. I think that this is an opportunity for us to be a little bit more proactive in finding those that are out there and not just waiting for them to get the courage to come to us or for a concerned
And that's kind
person
of the
to come.
thing that I really like is that I was going to ask, how do you know? I mean, most people, I didn't know that was the case, and I wouldn't know if someone needed that need, how would they know that to do that? So I do like that you're working with the school district to find those children in need.
It's, probably shed some light on that. The one gap that I see, recently retired, is the very issue you're addressing. A lot of these children, their parents work until 5 or 6, and they are literally home by themselves for the device, which doesn't imply that they make bad decisions. And something of this nature where you can fill in the gaps between that time and after school. We've had after school programs, and there has been funding available from time to time. That take us to look into. But my personal opinion is that this is a high area, especially and not have all the financial resources that other people
Right. I apologize.
and even if it expanded, we get into summer, fill in those long days with something for the kids to look forward to get up more, to be involved with. Of course, then the question go about it, because I've seen it. And you appreciate your foresight with your great staff at the community center, bring this forward. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to just talk to council about, Councilman Ivy and I have a bias, so a opportunity of seeing a lot of the youth. I'm looking at a lot of them you're hopefully going to be targeting, but you may not know that last time the census was done in Washington County, Pineview Middle School has roughly 840 students. We have listed on our rolls of Washington County more than 920 kids classified as homeless. We have more homeless kids that can fit and maximize the capacity of one of our our middle schools alone. And that's just homeless, not high need, poverty. I mean, there's a big spectrum of need. And I would agree a lot with Councilman Ivy, how he was talking about that range, sub 18 and just above 10-year-old, 12-year-old area. I really appreciate the vision of trying to find services to safely both inspire and motivate and take care of kids, but also give them a place within our community when people are busy. The good old saying of it takes a village to raise a child. Becomes a very complex thing when our population doubles and triples, it seems like every 10 years. So I appreciate the reaching out to try to develop more programs other than just sports, because we are more of a community than just balls. We have lots of beautiful ideas and lots of great things that can attract more kids if we diversify what we're trying to do at our community center. So
Well, can I just add, because I think this is an important point here too, because one of the questions that's been asked of many of the applicants is what additional funding kind of have you sought out there? And I want to add to that the fact that I know some of the new council may not know this, but it's been a longer process than we have wanted. But we have been working with Zions Bank for some time for a sizable donation. And again, apart from the recreation part, it would go into revamping part of that facility, the lobby area, because what we do find, we know this, of that age group, that vulnerable age group, is sometimes when they're coming home to no one, they're just going there to hang out. And so this group of employees has felt the strong desire to develop that lobby even, not only with activities that they can participate in, but if they choose to just hang out, they're hanging out in a place that people can oversee it. Now we're hoping that Zions Bank is going to make a decision this month, but we have yet to know that, and we've been kind of at their mercy. But I wanted to point that out because that is contributing funds that we've been soliciting from outside agencies.
can I ask you a question, City Manager? It looks as though the total project is $57,000 roughly. The request is just shy of $25,000. Is that remaining fundage to come through Zions Bank anticipated, or is this?
Well, and I'll have the Ben correct me on this. I think this will. I think the funds we were seeking, and by the way, we requested from Zions Bank, I believe, around $55,000-$60,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, again, we don't know what we'll get. And that was primarily identified to redo the lobby. So it probably wouldn't be matching funds with this. I guess my point was it was to that same vulnerable group that we were trying to do. But that may not be correct. Is that correct?
No, that is correct. When you see the numbers on that, the very toughest thing when, and I tried very diligently to put everything kind of in a silo as far as I could, but it's tough to do that when you have such a large organization and you're trying to say, well, this is the part that we're going to contribute to this. So you're trying to split staff salaries of what percentage of that are we going to commit to this. And so, when you see that number that we submitted at 24,000, that's strictly the items to really get these programs off the ground. We already have the infrastructure and the staffing and all of the support in place that would be able to handle that.
So is this totally, so this is for any kid though? So is there a fee for any kid, or is it all supplemented by this?
There will be fees associated with it, yes. But our goal is to make sure that nobody is left out and that we're reaching out specifically to those who may need it.
And we have enough room, like we have adequate room, because I know the community center is always packed. So that's my next question is, do we have the space that can do that? And then what times are you planning on doing it?
It will be after school hours. It will be summers. We've gone through, we work at least a year in advance scheduling space. And so we identified all the programs that we felt like we wanted to start with. And the first step that we went through was, well, where can we put it? And how is that going to work in? And with our other programs, is it going to, make it difficult to run other things that we already have there? And I think we've identified how to make that work.
So where is that in the community center? Just curious.
It'll be a combination of different areas running through some of the preschool rooms that run out of the reception center. We will use the multi-purpose room more extensively. We will also use the party room space. We've turned to almost every single bit of storage space that we can come up with into a space to be able to.
So hallways and whatever.
Whatever we can do is wherever we can find it. But those will be the main spaces within that reception center, multipurpose, and party rooms.
And we're not taking away from other programs as
No.
part of that. It's just continuing.
That is correct.
Mayor.
Ben, what future funding requests might we see to keep this program going?
I think a lot of that's going to depend on how successful we find this. If it's as successful as we think, we're hoping that through user fees for those who can pay the fees, that the current programs that we're asking for will be able to be self-sustaining. And then future requests would be for any additional things that we may see. You know, we focused a lot in this discussion on the youth, but part of this money would be towards senior programming, some other things that we feel that we need to expand. Again, the demands of the community, the areas that we see growth in. So, but our goal is, as we work through the numbers and where the participation would be, to be able to at least break even expenses and revenue, even giving away a good number of spots to those who are in need.
Thanks, Ben. Any additional questions? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you, and thank you all for your desire to come into Washington City and provide arts and entertainment and all those programs. I hope our council will take them all serious and deliberate and see where we can help.
I think the schedule, Denise, is, am I not mistaken, on the last? Thank you.
You'll be on the, yes, we'll vote on the 22nd of January. I forgot, I'm going to take a personal moment. I forgot to welcome our new council. I apologize, gentlemen. I've just known you forever, so I just assume everybody knows you. So, but welcome. We're glad that you're here, and we're glad to have the opportunity to work with you and all the good team. And look forward to a new decade, and that kind of interesting to think and contemplate about. It's 2020, so. Thank you, and we look forward to it. Moving forward. Okay, we will move on to item 3. If I can get it. Okay. Discussion, the city position requiring of the Lake Powell pipeline. Turn it over to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize. This came kind of late because it was kind of a late request of us. The Water Conservancy District has requested, if the council feels inclined, they would like the council to maybe draft something, or at least under the mayor's signature, for support of the Lake Powell pipeline. They have public scoping going on right now, which closes on Friday. And so this is a new council. We had this discussion. Council Starkey and I, with the new council, we didn't know if we were comfortable enough to draft something beforehand without having some feedback by this council as, one, if that was of interest to them, two, what they would like to see. It'd probably still have to be somewhat brief. We wouldn't do anything too lengthy, but so that essentially is the reason for the discussion this evening. Yeah, so whatever direction you would give us, if you give us that direction that yes, and these are the components we'd like, then we would draft something and we could get it out to you, but get it to the mayor for his signature prior to the closing of the great comments. Thank you.
My first thoughts on that is this seems like a very eminent, quick turnaround on getting a whole council's opinion and drafting for something to be given out on Friday. But we have nothing to review other than, do we want to put something together in support of a pipeline?
How poetic Council Starkey and I can get, but we
You
certainly
know
wouldn't
what?
wanna
You can dazzle me as much as you need.
put anything in that would be contradictory to the council.
Well, no, I'm not anticipating any contradictory. It's just a matter of a council statement within that much time is my biggest concern.
I appreciate your comments, Councilman Clough. We've heard a lot of comments tonight. I would just add that this is not a new topic. The Lake Powell pipeline has been discussed for years. The other part I would add is that it doesn't have to be the entire council. If 3 of the council is supportive, then that letter would be binding. So I would just add that the simple comment of what I've heard Ron Thompson being quoted as saying is, we have a lot of problems in Washington County, but if we run out of water, we'll have one problem. So I think you understand where I stand on this issue.
You know, I attended Ron's retirement party yesterday, and they had a pretty good light show presentation about how water is a driving factor. Real trouble. Very important that we get behind it and we'll work back and I feel. Those are pretty imminent concerns, I would say.
You know, and within those eminent concerns, what do we want to say as a council is something of highest concern to me, rather than just saying we've heard about it. It's really important. We don't know how much it costs. We know it's coming. We might be changing agencies and how we're going to go through this, but can you give us a word on what your council wants to say? I'm not saying this very lightly. I want to know what we want to say. Yeah, we've heard about it. Oh, I've walked a lot of the trail of it. My goodness, I lived right next to it for years too. That doesn't qualify my presence and my statement for the council. So my question is, what do we want to say? Not, is it important? Not, we've heard about it. Do you find just writing a blank check of our opinion and seeing what comes out the other side? Is that how you'd like it to be presented?
Maybe you could have the manager and our council write something up and let you look at it.
And I'm not opposed to that. My concern is the time frame is that though it is a broad subject that's been out for years, my goodness, almost as old as me, it seems like, and though it is eminent, is that going to give us, would the said bodies that are writing this letter be able to get it to us by tomorrow night to look at?
Can you give us a gist of what you're trying to, I mean, what they're kind of after? I mean,
Well, no, I think what they're after, council jump in here, because again, we just kind of got this out as soon as we got it from you. Again, not a new topic, not a topic, quite frankly, that the council hasn't discussed. So I think what is being requested, and certainly Mike can help too, is just, you know, there is this open comment period. It's an important comment period. And even if we articulate, and so I think we could articulate the fact that we have a strong concern with, you know, with our ability to sustain the growth in the future. Again, still noting, I mean, we can note and not even be too overly emphatic about anything associated with still the fact that we need to review. Still, there are issues that need to be resolved. We recognize that. We wouldn't, I don't think we'd write it in such a way that goes a big carte blanche away. But I think we could articulate something that we believe that it's something that needs to be on the table because of our ongoing needs. And I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head with this issue.
and I look at it the same way, is that if we're looking at, I mean, I personally think we need the pipeline. I think it's essential, but like you said, we want to look at everything and look at the costs and look at all that.
Yeah, this wouldn't,
But I'm in the mind frame that yes, we need, if they're asking for a response, I wish they would have gave us a little more time. But I'm also like, I think staff can present us something quick and then we can review it. And if we don't like it, we don't like it.
and it won't be lengthy. True. Like I told you, we wouldn't do anything lengthy, and it's not necessary. It's just simply to basically stake a position.
That we have a need for water in this area. And this is one option we need to look at. It's not, yeah, we're committing the pipeline. That's what we're doing.
And it needs to be completely, not to use this is probably not a good pun, completely wrung out, this option. It needs to be one of the options that is maintained
Yes, and looked at.
and looked at.
Yes.
That's the support we need. We can't cut this thing off right now before we have all the questions.
But in reality, we have to recognize also that each of our communities already have, to some extent, are a part of the Washington County Water Conservancy District impact fee for water, and studies that have been done, and part of what constitutes the water impact fee is planning for the future acquisition and installation of a line. I'm like, now recognizing that we're already part of that. We're already part of that continuing process that collects fees from every one of us. When we build in our community, planning for that to be part of our equation for water in the future. We just have to recognize that's the reality of what we all live in right now. That's part of what that impact fee is being provided for by everyone who built the house out here.
Scoping phase, correct? Right now, this is the, or excuse me, of the environmental. So this is just, they're just collecting input. I think, is there another comment period after the scoping?
And probably once the environmental comes out, right? There'd be public comment on that. Might help out. Several, yeah.
So part of the scoping phase at this point is just to make sure that all opinions and all input is actually in so that it can be taken into consideration during the actual environmental, correct?
So this is all by the NEPA process.
Yeah.
All right, it was outlined by the NEPA process.
So a little bit of background. So one of the reasons this has moved fairly quickly on this is it started out that FERC was the regulating agency on the environmental. That now has excuse me, changed to the Department of Interior, which is much better for us because the Department of Interior does a lot of water projects where FERC is more power. And the reason where it's FERC is because we're going to be generating power on this line as the water flows through the line.
Well, not just that, but FERC also has traditionally regulated interstate.
So that's kind of created the quicker movement on it because the Bureau of Interior wants to keep this project moving forward. They're just asking for us a letter from the city on our letter of intent. Basically, do we support the project and why do we support the project?
So you're envisioning something like whereas Washington City recognizes that it only has one water source, which is the Virgin River, and whereas we expect to see the city grow to a certain amount in this area, we recognize the need for further water projects and the potential of the Lake Powell pipeline to benefit the area, and we support the assessment to go forward to consider all aspects we do have concerns about the cost. We do have concerns about other issues, but we support looking at all the options kind of a thing.
Yeah, I would do that. I would eliminate all whereases because this will not be
I
able
was trying to
be
sound so
adopted.
legal.
I
Come
know you
on.
were. And the only reason I wouldn't do it that way is because we would not have this in a format of a resolution because it's not on the agenda. It would just be incorporated in a letter that would be endorsed by the council, be signed by the mayor, that would go in and still.
So it's not a resolution? I thought that's what they were asking.
Well, the problem is we don't have no, it's just a statement. Yeah, that's it.
And in fact, I think part of that the Washington City has been invited to provide.
I see, in my opinion, and what has been talked about as a council, supporting the process that's at hand, I have no issues with whatsoever. So that's addressing my number one concern. It's just to support the process. I am perfectly fine signing.
I think we could carve something out that I think, again, does not, and it wouldn't matter anyway. We're in the stage we're at with the NEPA process, it's not binding anyway, these comments. So, but we would still carve it out in such a way as that, yes, this is absolutely something that needs to be looked at. Because of that, we, support the continued process here and kind of almost leave it with, like you said, but without some whereases.
So I'm just trying to think, and part of the reason I'm going to bring this up is because I'd like to hear from other council members if they have other concerns. But one of it is the statewide funding. We don't really know what the state will contribute to this. There was some possibly overly hopeful ideas that that maybe the entire state would take on a project like this. I'm not seeing that being backed up by any of the governor's office or the senators. Well, but that could be one of your concerns with this, is because if the residents of the county down here are completely saddled with the burden of the repayment of this, and the repayment schedules are kind of built as far as the numbers are put together. Anyways, just any of those other concerns, I'd like to elicit either comment on that particular item or other concerns with the Lake Powell pipeline as we're thinking through it.
Well, that's why I think it'd be easy, especially because of that. And our city council almost always does this also in these types of requests, and that is to say, if the recommended needs water, but always to preserve Washington City's position that that future evaluations of cost effectiveness, the impact from a financial standpoint, those things have nothing to do with the fact that we need water. This is clearly one of the biggest potential sources we'll have for it. But as always, Washington City is conservative in its evaluation of how costs impact those things in the future, without even
That addresses my
negating what we
concerns.
recognize as a need for water.
Now, this is something that just came as, we need this ASAP. Here you go, by Friday. There's no further advance.
Well, when does the open comment close?
Right.
It closes on Friday. Tomorrow night is the public open house down here. We have council meeting. Tomorrow from
There is
1 to
another- yeah.
3 is the scoping meeting. I'll be attending that, and any of the council that's available can attend that as well if you'd like.
Is it 3 or?
1 to 3 is
1
the
to 3.
scoping.
I don't see this as overly threatening as
No.
part of the process,
Right.
Councilman. Even the timing, I mean, we would have preferred more timing. We'd have preferred more timing just so we could be giving it to you, more timing. But I think this is one that we can be nimble enough with what's being requested and still retain position.
My correct assuming it's probably all municipalities best to write letters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the very first meeting of the environmental with the Bureau of Interior, so. I think there'll be quite a few more to come.
So I guess one of the other points that I wouldn't mind as having considered is an economic point. I'm not sure. I think there's a temperament that says, well, if we run out of water, then we can just shut down building and we won't expand and we don't control our growth. But it was early on in the process, and it was just a young mother who stood up there, and she, I don't even know if she was intending to make that point, but it came home to me that, if we run out of water here, it's our kids that won't be able to afford to live here, because this will turn into some kind of a Park City place where millionaires and billionaires can afford it, but no one else can. So not growing and not expanding is not necessarily the best option.
One of the biggest concerns that I have is, being the water provider for the city, is that we have basically one source of water. We have the Virgin River. And we have our well fields, but we've capped that well field. There's no more water rights for us to drill more wells. And the little bits that come down are, not a lot of water for us. So that Virgin River is our source of water. If something was to happen to that source of water to where it was contaminated, we couldn't treat it, right now we would be in a world of hurt. But to have a secondary backup sources would be a huge asset for us.
Mayor, if I might just add, I appreciate that information, and I really appreciate your comments, because I think what you're speaking to, Councilman Ward, is a vision of what the future may or may not look like. And if you look at the history of this area, there were people who saw the need and had the foresight to initiate Quail Creek Reservoir and the diversion dam. And we all benefit from that. And the fear is if we don't support this, if we don't share that vision, then there could be some really, really serious consequences. So it's not something that I take lightly. I apologize if I got a little direct with my support of the Lake Powell pipeline. But frankly, that is I think Ron Thompson summed that up well when he said we have a lot of issues in this area, but if we run out of water, we'll have one. So I don't know that we really have it. If anybody has an alternative, I'm open to it. But in the meantime, I think all the details and the processes will work out. But I, for one, want to be on the record showing that I support this project.
It is possible that they'll throw some numbers at this that we'll all blanch at. This thing could really run away, and we may get to a point where, trucking it in might be cheaper. But I appreciate the process, and yeah. But
The reservoir project, they're still working through the environmental.
Right,
I think they're pretty much
I can
done.
update you on that. We just approved some money to finish that environmental. They're getting close, and they're about halfway through it, 3/4 of the way through it. And they don't anticipate any real issues. So I think it's going to be able to move through. And the Warner Valley reservoir out that way. So, but see that still feeds off the Virgin River, which is about that big of a around in the summer. So you can't conserve water you don't have.
Mayor, we'll move forward and just articulate something and share that with the council. Again, don't expect it to be really,
Gone with the wind.
Yeah, really crazy, and we'll try to make it a retained position without getting into a lot of details that we don't have the answers to right now.
With that, I believe I have consensus for them to move forward with that, correct? Okay. All right. No additional questions, comments? City manager, anything more you want to add on to that? Mike? Hey, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor coming tomorrow, say aye.
Woo! All in favor.
I want to sing you a love song.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thank you. So good. So good.
It used to be some Can you sing that?
Which one?
Neil Diamond and Barbershop.
Oh my. We've only just begun. No, that's not important for being a parent.